This is the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, episode number 42.
And rolling sound, quiet.
Here we go. Ready.
Speeding. 120, take 7.
And action.
This is Caryn McCann, the host of the China Hollywood Greenlight podcast, a podcast about creating and distributing content for both Hollywood and China. If you like the show, please leave a rating on your favorite podcast app. These ratings really do elevate the show. This attracts a bigger audience, which in turn attracts more great guests. Any links mentioned in the podcast can be found in the show notes at chinahollywoodgreenlight.com/podcast, and look for this episode, which is number 42. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to start out with a motivational quote to encourage our listeners to continue on their path to achieving their own green light. And today's quote is from Benjamin Franklin, and he said, "Energy and persistence conquer all things." A quick update on what I'm working on. I finished the latest rewrite on my made-for-TV movie. It was great getting feedback. I've got one more group who is going to give me feedback. After that, I'll be ready to send it out, so very soon. I'm also looking for a manager. This is, I'm looking for someone who is keen on East-West stories. This is kind of a new avenue for me, so I'm excited to research various managers. I'm also attending the Hong Kong Film Market. Of course, it's online, and that is next month. And lastly, I'm working on a big promotion for my membership website, which is called The China List. Now, this site connects writers and producers in Hollywood and China. I can't give the details out yet, but it will be ready by the last week of February. So make sure you check out the site, https://CHNLIST.com, and look for our big announcement in a couple of weeks. And now, here is the main segment. Today's guest is Rosalie Lutfiyya. Rosalie is an international business consultant who started Lion Legends Investment in China in 2015. Lion Legends aims to connect Chinese investors to great projects. Rosalie holds monthly networking dinners for executives to connect and share their knowledge. Additionally, she is also developing an app that will provide marketplace matching between Chinese investors and filmmakers around the world. She is also an associate board member for the Chicago International Film Festival. So, Rosalie, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much, Caryn. I'm so excited.
Well, yeah, I've told the audience a little bit about you, but why don't you take a minute and tell us more about yourself personally and your business?
Okay, so, I went to China, moved to China January 1st, 2014. To be honest, I wasn't really sure what it would be so great for. My goal was actually to move to Istanbul, Turkey, because I had spent a month there. I know.
A slight detour.
Huge detour. So I said to myself, okay, let me figure out what China is really great for. And of course, it's great for a lot of things, right?
Right.
As you figure out if you live there. So I ended up starting a company because I've worked in the film industry for 20 years previous to moving to China.
Wow.
And so in a lot of different aspects. But once I went to China, it just kind of flourished and grew so quickly into something so unexpected and amazing. So that's what I'm continuing to do is connect. So I want to make a correction. It's not only connecting Chinese investors, it's connecting investors, period, to Hollywood projects or foreign projects, but basically to get funded. So, yeah.
So not just the film industry, but lots of projects.
No, it is only for the film industry, it is for international foreign projects also, so foreign films. So, yes, so I introduce, mainly because I was living in China, and China is a huge market.
Right.
I was focusing on China with a lot of foreign producers and scripts and Hollywood scripts and so on and so forth. I also ended up working for the actress Zhang Yuqi for a while, for several months, and that was a really great experience also. So,
wow. Okay, well let's start with the first question. What I know you mentioned Istanbul, but you ended up in China. Was there a reason why China, or is it was just luck?
So yeah, it was just like, so people say to me, why did you choose China? And I always say, well, China chose me.
That's a great answer.
It sounds a little bit corny, but it is very true. China chose me. I had chosen my agency had said, okay, choose the top 5 countries you want to live in and work in. And we'll send out your resume and, your professional, whatever, this and that. And I said, okay. They said China should be on the top of the list because you can do a lot there. And I'm like, no way. And it just so ended up that they offered me a position. So I originally came to China to do international business consulting, which means basically I was going to different international companies, training their employees in basically negotiation skills and presentation skills and a lot of other things. And then I very quickly, because film has always been my first love, I very quickly moved into that market and just flew and just grew so quickly. So, yeah.
So, tell us what are like 2 or 3 main tasks you do like on a typical day?
Gosh, so the main tasks that I do, so one of the reasons I do what I do is because it's not just about money making, it's actually helping people, which means connecting people in all different parts of the industry, right? All parts of this art. And to me, it's actually helping people. It's not just connecting them and then making money from what you do. It's actually connecting people. And I love that. And so I get to work with a lot of different people. So on a daily basis, what I try to do is I try to reach out to new people or, to be honest, a lot of people reach out to me. So I try to actually just answer them is what I do. That's mainly what I do. Another thing is always see how I can make better what I'm doing. So I see how I can make what I'm doing a lot better for people and how I can make it more convenient and easier. But also a little bit, try to motivate people by what I'm doing. So basically it's just, doing that, which is basically my app. I work on my app. I'm developing it. So, and another thing I do is I always want to, you always in this industry want to stay up to date every single day with information as far as who owns what, where the market is, where the Chinese market is, what the political relationships are, because that's going to affect the market hugely, as you probably know. And so it was huge, between China and the US, and the political relations were severed and kind of, messed up a little bit. So, so now as it stands, it's not so great. So you always want to stay up to date, what people are doing, make sure you stay in contact with people that are in China, as far as what's going on, what people are doing. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
A lot of connecting. So
yes.
That leads to my next question. How do you find like a business partner, and how would you suggest the listeners perhaps find a Chinese producer?
Okay, so both of those, the first one's a little bit easier to answer. The second one is a little bit trickier, only because it, involves being extremely artistic and creative and resourceful. Okay, so I'll answer the first part of that question is, how did I find my business partner? Well, I was part of actually a film. Obviously, anybody who's been to China or lived in China, they know about WeChat. I was part of a 500 group member film group. And I think based off of what I was talking about and doing, one of my business partners reached out to me and she said, hey, let's, work together on some stuff. And she said, by the way, do you know, or have any connections to people that are doing, like marketing for concerts or any agencies that are doing that? And I said, not really, but you know what? I will never say no. Because there's always an opportunity to create that space for yourself, right?
Right.
So what I said to her was, she said to me, okay, what I want you to do is because she's worked in the industry for over, like 30 years. She's with all types of producers in Hollywood, and she speaks fluent Chinese, and she's all over the place. So she's amazing. She said, I'm friends with Chris Brown's manager. So Chris Brown, the artist in the United States, right?
Right.
She said, he really wants to come to China and break into the Chinese market.
Okay.
And but what he needs is he needs an opportunity with some of the nightclubs to start with.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. It started off slowly, but then it just the opportunity and working with her just went really fast. So I actually to make a long story short, I just got in touch with everybody. I would take friends who spoke fluent Chinese because I speak very minimal.
Uh-huh.
To myself, I think I speak great, but to
I love it.
I know, right? So I would take people who I knew could speak Chinese a lot better than I could. I took them to speak to the biggest nightclubs in China to say to them, okay, I have this opportunity to bring Chris Brown and other artists to your nightclub for this amount or that amount, or let's talk about it. So let me tell you, it took 8 months of going to these nightclubs at 10, 11 o'clock at night, spending 2 to 3 hours there, because obviously, Chinese culture is the later you are, the more important you are. It's not like the United States where you need to be, or the earlier you are, the more important you are, the better you are. The one who speaks the most is the most important. No, it's actually the later you are, the more important you are, right? So I would get there on time or a little bit early, and I had to learn the hard way. Chinese culture is not like that. So that means that they were more important. They showed up half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour later. So I'd spend till 2 o'clock in the morning in these nightclubs for 8 months. After 8 months of negotiating and going back and forth and doing all of these things, I would not quit until I got it. I actually got a stamped contract for Chris Brown to come to the largest nightclub in China. However, let me tell you where this ended.
Okay.
I gained an incredible business partner, right? Because I kept going until I got what I wanted, until we got what we wanted. I never said no. I never said no. I've never done this before. I said, I'm going to go until I get it.
Okay.
So I got a great business partner out of it. However, at the end of it, after all is said and done, Chris Brown has a criminal record, and we all know that people in China the Chinese government does not let anybody into the country if you have a criminal background. So all that work and signed contract and all these different amounts and negotiation for 8 months, it came to an end, and this is kind of where it ended. It's not really possible for him to come because they're not going to let him in. So
that's a good learning experience.
Very good learning experience. And let me answer the second part question, which is, how do you suggest the listeners find a Chinese producer? Now, this one's a little bit more complicated, but it sounds complicated, but to be honest, it's really not. So it's difficult because people entering the market that don't understand the intricacies of the culture amongst the Chinese, they have a really difficult time. Right? They have a really difficult, they can just come from Hollywood. Even I have met with actually some really top producers of some top box office films in the United States that have come to China. I met with them privately with other people, and you wouldn't believe some of the things they said. Like, they just had zero clue about the culture. Some of the things they were surprised about. They thought they could come over and just say, okay, this is what it is, right? But what you really need to do in order to find a Chinese producer is, to be honest, it's number one, be present, be physically present, geographically present, which means you can't just stay in Hollywood or stay in Turkey or stay in Spain or wherever your project is from, and then try to connect with people in China. It just doesn't work like that. So part of the Chinese culture is that, which I actually absolutely love and I 100% work by, is that we, I say we like I'm Chinese, but in Chinese culture, you build relationships first before you do business. In America, it's the opposite, where you do business first and then you build relationships because they don't want their time wasted. But in China, it's the complete opposite. You build. And then after a while, people trust you to do business with them. And it's the same in getting information. People will feel okay giving you information if you're not physically there. If you reach out and say, oh, well, I've seen your film, or I know who you are, or so-and-so, to say, get in touch with you, great. However, if you're not physically, geographically there and spend time going back and forth, you'll never be able to establish these relationships, these deeper relationships that require you to find someone trustworthy and skillful enough to be a producer. Because you can say, oh, this person's a producer, that person's a producer. But to be honest, it's that relationship that will get you to the right person, a right project in China. Exactly. So my suggestion is spend some time there, go back and forth. And another part is, if you don't speak Chinese, Even if you're like, no, everybody I work with, right? They all speak English. No. You're going to China. Make sure one of your business partners speaks Chinese fluently, Mandarin, and make always present, because even having that person just because they speak Chinese and you don't, you can say to them, oh, you go to the meeting because, I don't speak Chinese. That will never work. You have got to be present. You have to be present. So reaching out to people, being present, and building relationships. That is the only way.
Yeah, that's good advice. Now you are working on this app. Can you tell us more about it? For example, this app that you're developing to connect Chinese investors with great projects in regards to the entertainment industry. Like, for example, what are some of the goals, some of the challenges you faced, and what are your next steps?
Okay, so there are a lot of challenges, as anybody who's working on designing, creating, developing an app for the industry, or pretty much any industry, right? So I can answer some of these questions because they're still in development, and a lot of the information is anonymous and it's also confidential. However, I can talk a little about it. So I designed it, and I eventually actually got help with a group of people, very talented individuals from other parts of the world, including China, to help develop parts of it, design it. So it will connect investors directly to projects. They will be able to see projects. They'll be able to see like basically type A celebrities and agents that are either attached to the film, or if they put a certain amount of money in, they will be able to actually get these actors to join the project. So there's a lot.
Yeah,
and like I said, the only way to actually know what's inside of the app is to be a member. But it is currently in development, and a lot of challenges is basically making sure to make sure both sides and all parties involved are legitimate and actually have these funds. But I have a very creative way. Don't you worry. I have a very creative way of making sure that there are a lot of funds that are actually available for the projects that they choose to, and that the producers on the other side and the talents are actually aware of what's going on, and that they're also signed on for this idea. So it's all in development. And it will be out, and I can't say soon, but it will be out hopefully sometime this year.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. So still working on it, making sure everything matches up. And, the one thing that you want to always make sure of is that you are legitimate and reliable, because the last thing I ever want to do is, do something then, something happens where trust is broken between any part, through any level of relationship here, right? Because we have the agents, we have the producers, we have the investors, and then we have people that are off the app. And I want to make sure that all of that is cohesive,
right?
That we all can trust each other to a certain degree. So that's the most important to me.
Do you have a name for the app, or is that confidential still?
I do have a name for the app, but it is confidential.
Okay. I look forward to hearing about it. You're going to have to really do a massive ad in Variety when it comes out or something.
I was going to say, how about this? You'll be one of the first to know.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Yes, you'll be one of, and the name won't surprise you.
Okay.
But you'll be one of the first to know, and I'll make sure that everybody knows what's going on with it. So
yeah, because that could be a big seller, trying to connect Hollywood projects with Chinese investors, or any project, worldwide.
Exactly, any project, any investor. So I'm also working on investors from like Dubai and other parts of the world, because obviously with investors, there's silent investors, and then there are investors who want, like 52%, where they have an actual say in what goes on, who the talent is, how much the, profits come out, how things go. And a lot of times producers are like, no, I want to be the one with the final say. So
right.
You have to make sure all that stuff matches up. So yeah.
Wow, a big project. Well, that leads to the next question. And now you obviously, you don't have to talk about the app, or you could, but the next question is about obstacles. What obstacle did you encounter on a past project? How did you overcome it, and what did you learn?
Let's see. That's a very good question. So there are a lot of them. All right.
Of course.
So I won't say one project in particular. I will say what types of things are the most difficult parts.
Okay, great.
So obviously the Chris Brown project.
Right.
I was on set with Mike Tyson. I was on the set of Asura. I don't know if you heard of the $100 million film project.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Of course, who hasn't, right? I worked with the actress Jung Yoo-chi, which was a little bit challenging.
Okay.
But she was great. She's gorgeous. She's very talented. She's amazing. So it was challenging because you wanted to meet the criteria. You wanted to make sure you were doing a great job. And so, yeah, she was great. So I'll just go ahead and say all of them are challenging. Okay. I think the most challenging thing was making sure to start, during starting my company, because as I said, Chinese culture is all about relationship building, and it's not easy to build a relationship with them. Right. You must build a relationship. You must trust your instincts. Trusting your instincts is a huge one. Talking to other people in the industry in China is another huge one. Again, personally getting to China, meeting people and creating. But I would say that probably trust is a huge thing. I've run into issues where I've had Hollywood producers with Hollywood projects, and they've said to me, they are sitting in their offices in California, and they're like, what they did was they entrusted someone who was American, who lived and worked in China, but he was in real estate.
Okay.
He was not but because in real estate, necessarily project, the way you build a project is a little bit similar to the film project, and and get your returns and return on investments and so on and so forth. He didn't know anything about the film industry, but what he was doing is trying to screen people.
Oh, okay.
He was doing a very horrible job at it because what he was doing was he was trying to screen people, and based off of who I knew, not who I'd worked with, he just sort of came at me verbally, and I'd never met this guy. Huh. And I said, do they know what kind of person they are entrusting with their name, their project, and to get around for them in China? So you need to be very careful who you entrust. If you're going to sit in your office in another country, right. Because you can't make it to China, and you're going to entrust somebody to build relationships for you in China, be careful who you trust.
Yeah.
Because even if you cannot trust them, even if you find out they know someone that you can't trust, that does not necessarily mean you can't trust them. You need to sort of dig around a little bit, build relationships, meet them, see them in person, see what they can do for you, all these other different types of things. But it was just a really bad thing. And so my challenge was, how do you gain? So you kind of want to push someone like him aside because they don't know who they're working with.
Right.
But your challenge is, how do you build a now trusting relationship directly with them without him? Right. Because now they're using him to build a relationship with people in China when they're not there. And then what he's doing is going around screaming at people and telling people off, using obscenities when he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not even in the industry, and so that was a challenge. It's basically how to build relationships directly with the people who have the projects, aside from the people they're entrusting that aren't doing a great job, right? Yeah. So you have to build a relationship with them and build a relationship with him, and just it's a lot. So basically, dealing with people who don't really have trustworthy partners in China, and so that's the other thing. And then on their side, right, the producers in Hollywood, their side, they need to figure out who they can actually trust to work with in China. Right. How do you do that? How do you do that? Again, for me, it's relationship building, physically, geographically being there. Right. Getting around and building relationships with people who go back and forth. Right. But who else have been in the industry? So that's how you find producers, is literally building relationships and word of mouth and being kind. literally being kind to everybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
Yeah.
trust everybody, but does mean being kind to everyone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big problem, lack of trust, which is kind of leads into my next question. If you could magically solve two current problems, what would they be?
Two current problems.
They could be minor, they could be macro, they could be, small day-to-day stuff, or they could be industry-wide stuff.
Let's see. If I could solve two current problems, what would they be? They would be, okay, so a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people just don't understand what works in China.
Right.
So they just don't. They come and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this project and it's a period piece and, it's got Susan Sarandon in it. It has this person, this person, this person. And I say to them, stop right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody knows who Susan Sarandon is in China.
Right,
So
right.
that's already a no. So the biggest problem is they don't really know about the industry in China. They don't know about what works in China because they're like, oh, everybody in America knows Susan Sarandon. Everybody knows Brittany Snow. Everybody no, not in China. They don't know what works in China.
Right.
Know a period piece will not work in China.
Right.
A war film will not work in China. A comedy does not translate. I don't care how well the verbal translation is. Comedy does not translate culturally. You must know what works in China. So that was the biggest thing. Another thing is, let's see, probably, I guess, connect with people, connecting with people. How do you connect with people? Right. And how do you protect your, whatchamacallit?
Revenue?
Oh my God.
Revenue.
I'm sorry?
Your revenue? Your
no, not necessarily not necessarily
your investment or your project, your IP.
Your IP. How do you protect your IP in China? Is something a lot of people definitely need to know. This is another common problem that you need to know.
Yeah, that's yes.
And I would always, I think a lot of people, if you haven't heard this before, you specifically, Caryn, a lot of people would say, make sure once you get to China, Chinese people, it's funny, again, they're not like Americans where you sign a contract and it's like signing your life away. In America it is, but not in China.
Right.
So make sure you have everything a Chinese lawyer. Right. Make sure everything's in Chinese and English. Those are the most important things. Make sure every single thing is in Chinese and English, and that it translates correctly. And I would always say that if people know that you're not physically in China or that you don't travel back and forth to China, they'll just take advantage of you. They just will. They'll just say, oh, she's not physically here. What is she going to do? Fight me from California? Fight me from Spain? Fight me from Australia? Right? So making sure that everything's in Chinese and English, or because obviously English contracts don't hold up in China. And a handshake will hold up better than a contract will. So these types of things. So those are I think I would solve is basically how to protect your IP and know what works in China. So
okay. Well, this next question is a trick question. What question did I not ask you that I should have? I know. I asked you about the name of your app, so that one's off the table. We're gonna. That's private information, so I won't ask that.
Okay, so, oh gosh, that's a very good question. I think that the most important thing was probably how do you prevent people from taking your IP?
Okay,
taking your work.
Is there an answer to that? Should I? If I were to ask you, how do you prevent people from taking your IP? What would you say?
To a certain degree, you can't really prevent them, but you can. Again, the two main things that I've said before and that I can't stress enough is that one, contracts in Chinese, and two, making sure that you get to China physically.
Right.
Because once people know you're not here, they just say, This is our country. What is she going to do?
Okay. Now, what advice can you give those aspiring to tap into the China market?
Okay, that's a very great question. Also, I would say connect. So connect with people. So that's one thing. Use Chinese production. So people who are, so this goes back to actually, about the problems, about the issues you said that what kind of issue would you solve? Okay. So it's difficult to have co-productions in China because that means that there's equal say, the Chinese production can change. They can change their mind on something. They have equal say, right? My advice was don't do co-production. It would be either do a Chinese film and make it Chinese, or do an American film or a foreign film, look for Chinese investment, and then figure out ways to get your film into China.
Okay, good.
So it would not be to actually do co-production. So that would probably be, to be honest, co-productions are too difficult. The other thing would probably be if you are actually going to, you want to do Chinese, like let's say it's a foreign film, it's a foreign film and you have a lot of producers and you have people you're going to work on this project with. It's actually fairly labor, to be honest, for, production assistants and people on film sets would be use Chinese production, hire Chinese, Chinese production team. It's fairly inexpensive. They know the cultural differences. It may be a little bit difficult, but I would definitely say, limit your ideas on co-productions, make it Chinese or foreign. And that's just even if you're looking for Chinese investors. So that's that's the worst. I'm sorry, that's the advice that I would have for them. And another one again would be connect, visit, and trust. Like basically connect with people, visit, trust them. Never take anyone's word for it. Get around, work with someone who speaks Mandarin, and always be present. Be present, protect yourself no matter what, protect your name, protect your work, protect your relationships. Your relationships is the most important. And I have to say that being an expat living in China was the most valuable experience I've ever had in my life. Those are the most amazing people I've ever met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so
get
cool.
around.
That's so cool.
Yeah. People will help you. People are so excited to help you. So excited. But build those relationships, don't just pop in once in a while and, build a surface level relationship. Get in there, they're just so amazing. So amazing. I have so many amazing things to say with the people that I've worked with in my film dinner group, people that have come so incredibly talented and just incredible. So, yeah.
Oh, well, that is very encouraging. Now, in conclusion, would you like to share any social media details or website links so people know how to keep track of your work?
So I have a little bit of exactly. Okay. So right now, currently my website, I took it down because it's under construction because it's going to match the app. And so to be honest, both are under construction. They definitely need a little bit of help. They need a little bit, rehabbing. They need to be redone. So the way to get a hold of me is through my email. Okay. Currently. So you can get a hold of me on LinkedIn. My name is Rosalie Lutfiyya. You can find me. My last name is Lutfiyya. Get a hold of me that way. A lot of people find me that way. Or my personal email. I don't know if you can give that.
Yeah, I can put that in the show notes.
Sure.
I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put the email and the LinkedIn link in the show notes. Well, Rosalie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be able to share whatever I know, and whatever I've done. In China is the most amazing place to be, and I cannot wait to get back there. When things kind of settle down a little bit, but it's going to be, so my last piece of advice to your listeners are that it's going to be a wild ride. Be ready for anything when things hop back into the groove of things. Right now it's slow and it's not working, especially between the US and China. However, be ready to hop through that door because it's going to come and it's going to come fast.
Yeah. Hey, amen. Well, Rosalie, thank you so much again. And we'll see you at the premiere.
Thank you so much.
And now for my 3 key points and 3 takeaways. 3 key points. Number 1, boots on the ground. You need to be on the ground in China. You can't expect great success if you don't make the effort to meet your potential partners in China in person. Number 2, protecting your IP. When you draw up a contract, you need your contract governed by Chinese law. If it's governed by a foreign country's law, it will probably not be enforceable in China. Number 3, hire a Chinese production team. There are many Chinese production service companies you can use in China. This helps in the fact that it's less expensive than flying your entire crew out from overseas. Now, 3 takeaways. Number 1, don't do co-productions. According to Rosalie, she says co-productions are too hard to pull off with all the regulations. It's better if you make a completely Chinese domestic film or do a foreign film. Number 2, WeChat. This is a great resource to find like-minded associates. Americans tend to use email a lot. However, email isn't so popular in China. Get on WeChat and find some film and TV groups to join and build some relationships. Which leads to point number 3. Build relationships first, then business can start. Americans like to get down to business. We tend to think short term. This is not the case in China. There, you need to build relationships first before Chinese will want to do business with you. Lastly, keep an eye out for Rosalie's announcement sometime later this year about her new app. Her plan is to create a marketplace matching service between Chinese investors and filmmakers around the world. You can keep track of Rosalie on her LinkedIn page, and you can find that URL in the show notes. And members, remember to check out the China list. This is where Hollywood and China meet. This, again, is a website to connect writers and producers in Hollywood and China. Producers, talent reps, creative execs, directors, sales agents, membership to the China list is free. Writers, get your material seen in China and Hollywood. Find a writing partner as well. Sign up at https://chnlist.com. Well, that's the show. Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast on your social media and give us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. These shares really do help spread the word. And I'll see you at the premiere. Bye. 一会儿见.